Stephen Jay Gould was one of the most influential evolutionary biologists, paleontologists, and science communicators of the 20th century. His life story is not just about becoming a scientist, but about how curiosity, persistence, and communication can shape an entire field of study. Stephen Jay Gould was born September 10, 1941, in New York City, specifically in Queens. He grew up in a middle-class family where his father was a court stenographer and World War II veteran, and his mother was an artist. His upbringing exposed him to both intellectual thinking and creativity, which later shaped how he approached science. One of the most defining moments in Gould's life happened when he was only 5 years old. His father took him to the American Museum of Natural History, where he saw a fossil of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Gould later described this moment as life-changing. He later recalled being awestruck, and from this point on, he knew he wanted to become a paleontologist. As he grew older, Gould attended Antioch College, where he studied geology and philosophy. During this time, he also became involved in the civil rights movement, showing that he was not only interested in science, but also deeply engaged in social issues. He may have been driven to fight social injustice because he came from a family of Jewish immigrants on both sides. He later went on to earn his PhD in paleontology from Columbia University in 1967. Immediately after completing his PhD, Gould began his research at Harvard University, where he would remain for the rest of his career. He became a professor of geology and zoology, and also worked as a curator at the university's Museum of Comparative Zoology. His early research focused on fossils, particularly land snails from the genus Sirian, which he used to study how species change over time. He was particularly interested in how this genus showed significant variation in physical appearance despite having low genetic variation. Gould's rise to fame in the scientific community came largely from his revolutionary ideas about evolution. In 1972, Gould, alongside fellow paleontologist Niles Eldredge, developed the theory of punctuated equilibrium. This theory challenged the traditional Darwinian idea that evolution happens slowly and gradually over long periods of time. Instead, Gould proposed that species often remain relatively unchanged for long periods of time and then experience rapid bursts of evolutionary change. This concept proposes that species would be in a state of stable equilibrium in its habitat for long periods of time until a change in its environment or climate cause a sudden shift in evolution and speciation. While this action is referred to as sudden, it is only viewed as such in a geological timescale of the world. These jumps would actually take place over the span of thousands or tens of thousands of years. This idea sparked major debates in evolutionary biology and changed how scientists think about fossil records and evolutionary processes. In addition to punctuated equilibrium, Gould made other important contributions to evolutionary theory. One of his most famous scientific papers, The Spandrels of San Marco and the Panaglacian Paradigm, criticized the idea that every trait in an organism is an adaptation. Instead, he argued that some traits are simply byproducts of other evolutionary changes. This reshaped how scientists think about adaptation and natural selection. However, what truly set Gould apart from many scientists was his ability to communicate complex ideas to the general public. He wrote a monthly column called This View of Life in Natural History magazine for over 25 years, producing around 300 essays. These essays were later compiled into books, making him one of the most widely read science writers of his time. Gould authored many influential best-selling books. Some of his most important works include The Mismeasure of Man, The Panda's Thumb, and The Structure of Evolutionary Theory. Through these works, Gould not only educated scientists, but also made evolutionary biology understandable and interesting to everyday people. He believed strongly that science should be accessible and that misconceptions, especially those used to justify racism or inequality, should be challenged. Gould's influence extended beyond books and academia into popular culture. In 1997, he even appeared as a guest voice in the TV show The Simpsons in an episode called Lisa the Skeptic. In the episode, he plays himself as a scientist investigating a supposed angel fossil. which ultimately turns out to be a hoax. This appearance showed how well known he had become even outside of scientific circles. He also appeared in other media, including PBS documentaries like Nova and Cosmos, further solidifying his role as a public figure in science.
Can't afford to pay you.
I didn't become a scientist for financial gain. Whatever little money you have will be just fine.
In 1982, Gould faced a major personal challenge when he was diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare and serious form of cancer. At this time, he was told that the median survival rate was only about 8 months. However, Gould did not accept this as his fate. He carefully studied the statistic and realized that the median does not mean certainty. It simply represents a midpoint. With this understanding, he maintained hope and ultimately lived for another 20 years. He later wrote an influential essay about this experience called "The Median Isn't the Message," which helped many people better understand medical statistics. Throughout his life, Gould remained deeply committed to both science and society. He spoke out against creationism and pseudoscience and defended the teaching of evolution in schools. He also served as president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science and received numerous awards, including major literacy and scientific honors. Stephen Jay Gould passed away on May 20th, 2002, at the age of 60, just 2 months after the publication of his book, The Structure of Evolutionary Theory. Despite his relatively early death, his impact on science and education remains enormous. His work changed how scientists understand evolution, influenced public debates about science, and inspired countless students to pursue biology. In the end, Gould's legacy is not just about his discoveries, but about how he reshaped the relationship between science and society. He showed that science is not just a collection of facts, it's a way of thinking, questioning, and understanding the world.